Do you have your specimen ready? First, get your mind out of the gutter because that's not the kind of specimen I'm talking about. But then come right back here and take a seat because I'm about to tell you some tips for not messing up your trademark specimen. Hi everyone. I'm attorney Aiden Durham with 180 Law Co. in Colorado, and welcome back to All Up in Your Business. Before we start specimen talk, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and check the description for links to additional information and resources to help you manage how to get a registered trademark for your business. You can check out my all-inclusive trademark registration package or my online DIY course that teaches you step-by-step how to prepare for and apply for a registered trademark with the USPTO. All right, so whether you are applying to register a new trademark or if you already have a trademark registration and you need to do some maintenance filings, one of the key points to both of those things is submitting an acceptable specimen of use. If you don't provide an acceptable specimen, then your trademark registration will either get denied or rejected, or if it's already registered, you risk getting it canceled. A little background on kind of the timing of when this comes up. If you're filing a trademark application with the USPTO on a 1A current use basis, then you have to submit the specimen along with the application. If you're filing on a 1B intent to use basis, then you don't submit it with the application because with intent to use, you're saying you're not using the trademark in commerce yet, so how would you have a specimen to submit? Instead, a few months down the line, the USPTO, the examining attorney, will issue a notice of allowance. And then that notice of allowance starts the clock ticking, and you'll have 6 months from the date of the notice of allowance to then submit your specimen along with a statement of use, or you can request a 6-month extension. Either way, at some point in that process, you're gonna then have to submit the specimen. The point of the specimen is to demonstrate and show to the USPTO how you're using the trademark in commerce in connection with the goods and services that you indicated on the application. They want to see the context in which the public is coming across your trademark in the marketplace. And it needs to show, the context of how it's being used in connection with the sale of the goods and or services that you indicated on the application. So you need to make sure it properly demonstrates use of the trademark in connection with those goods and services, and that it otherwise is in line with the USPTO's requirements for an acceptable specimen. Otherwise, they're going to reject it. Or at least when you're applying for it, they'll give you an office action saying, hey, this specimen isn't acceptable. They'll give you an opportunity or two to correct it. But ultimately, if you don't give them what they're looking for, you're out. So there are a few really common mistakes that come up when people are trying to submit a specimen for their trademark application. The number one common mistake is that it doesn't show the applied for trademark with the relevant goods or services. So this can either mean that the trademark that you identified on the application and the trademark as it's appearing on the specimen don't match. Maybe you submitted a standard character mark, just plain text on the application, but then on the specimen that text is different, the words are different. Or maybe you're trying to register a logo design, a design mark, and the application shows one design, the specimen shows a different design. They need to be pretty much the same trademark on the application and on the specimen. Or this could mean that it doesn't show it in use with the relevant goods or services. So maybe you've got a website, but your goods and services are, shirts and coffee cups. But on the website that you submit as the specimen, there's no reference to shirts or coffee cups or anything even kind of similar to those things. Those aren't going to be acceptable. They need to see trademark, goods and services, and that what they're looking at allows for the public to either purchase those goods or inquire or sign up for those services. The second common mistake is that it's not a real example of how you're using the trademark. This might be like a mock-up of product packaging, or a digitally altered image, or like a rendering of your intended packaging, or maybe your intended website. What you're intending to use for your specimen isn't the actual specimen. It needs to be the thing, the packaging, the website, the actual thing, not just a proof or kind of a preliminary version of that. The third mistake, it seems kind of common, but people, I guess, don't read instructions very well, is just uploading another image or digital file of the trademark. So if you're applying to register a logo, what I see happen a lot is that the person just uploads another photo of the logo as the specimen. Again, that's not what the specimen is supposed to do. It's supposed to demonstrate how you are using that trademark in the marketplace in connection with the sale of your goods and services. The fourth common mistake, a lot of times we use screenshots or printouts of a website. Whether we're selling goods or services, a lot of times we're selling whatever it is online, and that's a perfectly acceptable specimen most of the time. But if we're submitting a web page as a specimen, the USPTO requires that we provide the URL or the website address where that came from and the date that we accessed it on. So if you upload a photo or a screenshot of your website, but you don't give the URL or the date that you accessed that website on, they're going to reject it. The last common mistake is that the specimen doesn't show a functioning trademark. This comes up most often with clothing or with other kind of merchandise or consumer goods, in my experience. It's not enough to have a logo or a design or a phrase and put it on the front of a shirt and call that a trademark. A majority of the time when they see that, the USPTO considers that to be a merely ornamental use. It's not being used as a functioning trademark. What a trademark's supposed to do is indicate the source of a good or a service. It's not just a decoration or a design that goes onto a product. I did a whole video a while ago specifically about trademarks for clothing lines. I'll link that in the description. But the point is, a big mistake that comes up most commonly with clothing lines, but often with other things, is that we're not showing it being used as an actual trademark. It's just kind of a design or a decoration on a product, and therefore it's considered merely ornamental. So how do we correct these things and make sure our specimen is accepted and our trademark gets registered? Number one, of course, make sure your specimen shows your trademark being used with the goods or services that you put on the application. Now, we don't have to show it in connection with every single good or service. A lot of times we might be selling a ton of different stuff. Maybe we're selling, again with clothing lines, maybe we're selling shirts and hats and shoes and, I don't know, pants, scarves, beanies, hoodies, sweatshirts, all of the things. A lot of these clothing items fall under the same international class of goods and services. So we don't have to submit a specimen for every single item, but we do have to submit one specimen per class. So if you've got a bunch of clothing items on your application, you just have to submit a specimen for one of those items. And then if you've got other classes with multiple items or multiple services within one class, we just need to show them use with respect to one thing in each class. If we're selling goods or products, show the trademark as it's actually used in commerce. Most commonly, this will be like a label or a tag that's attached to your product, or product containers or packaging, or a website displaying your trademark where your goods or your products can be purchased or ordered. So again, going back to the whole clothing line thing, don't just have the logo on the front of the shirt. That's not going to be good enough. They are going to want to see it on the garment tag or the label to the product, or even in the packaging, in the box that you put it in when you send it to people, or a digital display like on your website. And they're also going to want to see that this is available for people to purchase. So like a buy now button, or the little shopping cart symbol up at the top. Just something so the trademark office, the examining attorney, can see here's the trademark, here's the products, here's how people can buy it. If you're selling services, again, we need to show how this trademark is being used in commerce. So for services, this is typically things like advertisements that will show the trademark, either the business name or the logo, and maybe some description of the service that you're providing through your business, and a phone number or an email address for people to sign up for your service. Because again, this is supposed to be how we're using it in commerce. We wouldn't put up a advertisement that says our business name and all of our stuff with no way for people to contact us. We would have our phone number or our website address or some way where people can, okay, I'd like to sign up for that thing. So that's what they're going to want to see. An advertisement, a brochure, promotional materials, business signs sometimes, and of course, again, the good old website. 99% of the time, frankly, I just use websites for specimens, regardless of whether it's a good or a service, as long as it's got the info on there that we need. But if your website has your trademark on it somewhere, and there's a page that describes your services, and then your email address or a contact us now form, something like that, perfect. That's how you're using the trademark in commerce. And that's what the USPTO wants to see. And don't forget, when we're using those website printouts or screenshots for the specimen, be sure to include the URL and the date that we accessed it. And we can submit multiple specimens. Again, we only have to give one specimen per class, but if you need to provide images of multiple web pages to show the context of the trademark being used with those goods and services, that's fine. You can upload multiple images, multiple screenshots, and give multiple web page URLs and dates if necessary. In either event, you want to make sure that the trademark is clearly visible on the specimen. You don't want it to be tough to see or hidden in there somewhere. Make it easy for the examining attorney and the USPTO to figure out if this is acceptable or not. And just like we said before, this is your use in commerce. This is what your customers or potential customers are looking at. If your logo is teeny tiny or hidden somewhere, that's not going to look that great to consumers anyway. So why would you do that in the first place? And lastly, of course, avoid using digitally altered images or sample photos. When we submit these specimens, we are acknowledging and verifying that this is actual evidence of how we're using the trademark in commerce. I've seen a lot of examples where it's pretty clear that someone just photoshopped their logo onto somebody else's website or onto somebody else's product or product packaging. That's a big no-no. You might get away with it for a little while. You probably won't, but even if you do get away with it for now, eventually it's going to come back to bite you, and you could get in a lot of hot water for submitting some kind of altered or fake or false specimen. So completing a trademark application and submitting an acceptable specimen for your trademark can be really challenging. It's often kind of confusing to figure out how do we show how we're using this in commerce. So of course, it's always best to work with an experienced trademark attorney to help you through the process and advise you on what we need to show to have an acceptable specimen to submit to the USPTO. If interested, of course, you can check the link in the description to learn more about my all-inclusive trademark registration package, where I'll let you know exactly what we need to do to get this specimen submitted, or help you if issues come up. If working with an attorney is a little bit outside of your budget, though, my online DIY trademark course, Brandish, I have a pre-application guide that specifically describes how to prepare the specimen to submit to the USPTO, what to do, what not to do, and to make sure your specimen gets accepted and your trademark gets registered. That's all for this episode, folks. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. And again, don't forget to check the description for links to additional information and resources, including more info on my trademark services or my DIY online course. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Aiden Durham, and I'll see you next time.